Hey all, this is Vanessa Love, and this is my channel about the mental health field and related topics. Hopefully, this mic helps. Anyway, all right. I have uploaded a couple of videos that I'm just like, they're not my best. So I'm trying. I'm trying. This is a redo of one of my videos. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this woman. I believe she was in Colorado or Arizona, and she got admitted uh, to the emergency psych department, and then they found her a bed, and she was kind of like, I was feeling fine after I rested. I had a bad panic attack. That's all. And I guess she had said things like that she didn't want to exist, and so they like kept her there in the psych hospital, and she was like, I think they would have kept me for 3 weeks, and I didn't want that. And she eventually got out, and then went to the news and said, so this thing happened to me. And it was one of the issues that was brought up was that she did not talk with the psychiatrist for very long before she had the paper written for her to go to psych hospital, to have the transfer. Um, so this is a systemic thing, and I do want to talk about this because I did used to work in a psych hospital, and I mean, it's been like over a decade since I've worked in the psych hospital, so like some of this stuff I'm like, oh, take it with a grain of salt. I don't know how they're really operating as of late. I know like laws change quite frequently, especially in regard to lots of different things about things with that. So I mean, I think the process is still very similar, so I'm not like, I don't feel like I'm stepping out of too far out of range here. So I know Connecticut because Connecticut is where I worked. I also know a little bit about New York from about a decade ago. So, just quick, about a decade ago in New York, you had to have two doctors say that you needed to be in a psych hospital before they would put you in a psych hospital. So, that's one thing. And two, they would sometimes do a 14-day paper for people who were detoxing. Um, and that, I think that's about all that I know for New York. For Connecticut, a little bit of a difficult process. I know it a little bit more because that's where my experience is. So things like they would keep you there for 3 weeks. They actually don't want to keep you there for 3 weeks. They get more money for assessments than for people who are going to be there for long term. None of the places really want you long term at all, ever. Just letting you know, in case you have that fear of what I guess being like institutionalized, we don't really do that anymore. If you are in a place where like you need like a little bit of like supported living, that's available, but in group homes and stuff for like adults who cannot function, but like, or who have like a lot of, they need a lot of support functioning. That's in existence, but for most people, even if there's like, there's so many ways to say this. If there's like lower IQ, if there's just kind of some difficulty with just like daily things, there's really no like supportive living for that. It's like you have to, like, the people in southeastern Connecticut who are like in these group homes are the people who had been in the had been institutionalized before they were all closed in Connecticut, or most of them were closed in Connecticut, around the middle of the 90s. The history there is that Reagan defunded them and felt that they weren't necessary anymore, so pulled the funding. A lot of places closed. There were some accusations. I can't remember if they were actually like sustained, like, you know, if there was actually like evidence. But there were rumors, or you know, there were problems that with like authority and people possibly abusing like some of the people there. So, you know, better, you know, sometimes to close those places. So there's a couple of group homes that still have the people who were living in some of those institutions who are still alive. They just, like, one of them, they, like, live outside of the, like, right outside, like, on the same property of where they were institutionalized. And then one of the other places, there's, like, a downtown area, and they just, like, own some apartments, and that's the kind of assisted living. So, like, in those type of situations, they get their medications, they get, like, sometimes they get, like, funds, like, I used to work with teens, so I'm like, well, with the teenagers, they got, like, just kind of a, here's stuff for hygiene, buy some clothes, you know, that type of stuff. So, going back to institutions, like, everything is short term. In this area, at least, there's no long-term places for people. That's it, you know. And the long-term solutions are the supportive living and group homes. It's not being inside all day, you know, like having to just sit and watch TV with a bunch of people or whatnot. So yeah, they don't want you to stay. I remember one of the people who did stay a long time, and the people who had stayed a long time, the kids sometimes stayed a long time if there was no foster home, or there was, like, issues with home. Sometimes, like, it was so sad. Sometimes our parents refused to have them back. It's so heartbreaking. It's tough work. And then with the adults, I can't remember why this one guy stayed. He stayed for so long that they were pissed off that he stayed so long. They were like, he stayed 2 months or 3 months or whatever. It might have even been 6 months. I don't think it was 6 months. It was probably like 3 months. They were like, he stayed 3 months. We don't want that. Yeah, so they were just like, no, he needed to go. And I can't remember what it was that kept him there, but, like, yeah, it was just, like, all of these issues that were going on. I'm guessing with housing. So, yeah, like, I mean, also facilities, sometimes they do not give a shit. They'll be like, do you have a place to live? You don't? Here's the address for a shelter. Go find your way over. You know, like, they sometimes, I'm like, I remember one of the people saying that, you know, and I'm like, I mean, me as, like, a tiny person on the very, very low on the pole, I have no idea, you know, like, that sounds like a doctor issue or social worker issue more than, you know, like, group therapist issue. Because we don't even meet with you one-on-one. We have no idea what's going on in your life. We get a little bit of, like, an update, and that's it. So yeah, like, for adults, they don't want you there for too long. 3 days at most. 3 days at most if, like, you're just kind of feeling depressed or anxious or have the panic attack. If it's a particularly severe panic attack, maybe 2 weeks, maybe. If you're going through detox, then yeah, about 2 weeks. But, like, sometimes, especially depending on what type of detox it is, like, they would just kind of be like, 3 days, so go on your way after that. So yeah, like, there's a lot of issues with that. I mean, I totally hear her out on, you know, like, how upsetting it can be if, like, a psychologist or psychiatrist talked to you for 5 minutes and then they were like, okay, so I guess try some medication. We're gonna, you know, put you in the psych hospital and let them figure out what's going on and see ya. So just again, from a systemic point of view, and for someone who had worked in one of these places, I'm like, well, okay, here's the thing. When you go to the psych ED, the emergency department, right? ER, whichever one you want to call it. They don't really know much. They're emergency room doctors, basically, who are used to seeing other things. When you're having a psychiatric problem, they don't know how to assess that. Like, they can, but they don't. Like, it's not like they really have not had the training for that because they've had the training for everything else. So they really do kind of need you to go to a psych hospital because the people there know what they're doing. Like, they can look at you and be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, it's okay. The other issue is that, like, she didn't want to exist. So, like, it is too much of a liability for any hospital, any provider who has seen you before to let you just go on where you're like, I'm fine, everything's fine, I feel better, I want to live my life, I want to go. It is very hard to distinguish between someone who's telling the truth and someone who's lying about that, because they do want to, leave the earth. They don't want to live this life. So, like, like, there are really good liars out there. There are people who don't want to be in psych hospitals. So, like, it is kind of we're going to have to wait and see. 3 weeks does seem excessive. I don't know if that's, like, the policy or maybe the program out there or something that, that they wanted you to go into, or wanted this woman to go into. Like, yeah, that's really rough. Some people can only go on what you say, and so they're kind of like, well, this is how you felt a couple of days ago. Just because you slept may not mean that, like, that's actually the thing that's, like, helpful. So, again, like, also, if they want to try different medications or something for you, they do have to kind of wait for them to be in your body so that they can be like, does this seem to work for you at all? Are things being alleviated? My job in the hospital was to come and work on skills. So things like, hey, let's all do a puzzle together because let's focus on you focusing. Or like, hey, let's, talk about, like, what you like to do for fun, or here are some ideas of what to do for fun. Why don't we color? Why don't we do some other things? So that was kind of like my role, is kind of teach. Psychoeducational, that's the category, in case you're wondering. I'm not a teacher. So that's where I came in. Psychiatrists, I don't know, some of them are great, some of them are not great. The ones in New London, not really all that great. I've heard a lot of stories, so I'm kind of not surprised that someone met with someone for 5 minutes and then was like, continue on. But also, I mean, even though that person is a psychiatrist and, like, deals with medications and has, like, the doctor and the psychology behind it, doesn't always mean that they know exactly what you're going through, especially if you're not an established or long-term patient. So it's kind of like, let's just go over, basically the flow chart of your symptoms and send you off, which sounds like what they did with this person. Does the system need to be changed? Maybe, especially out there, maybe. Maybe something happened. That's what it sounds like to me. Like, something happened and they're like, we better be cautious here. But also, it's America. 3 weeks away from work. How are you paying for that hospital bill? How are you paying for your rent? How are you paying for any, like, it is very tough to be away from, like, work like that. I do have to say that one of my friends, she had kind of, I guess, passively expressed some sort of, like, not always being happy with life type of stuff. Maybe a little bit of, like, I wonder why I exist. And she was sent to a psych hospital, but she was sent on, like, a Thursday. She got out on Monday or a Tuesday or something like that, because none of the regular doctors are available on the weekends. So, like, if you're not assessed for, like, what you need, I guess, they're going to keep you there until the regular doctors can come in, check with you. The regular nurses can come and check with you. I always feel like the weekends are like skeleton crews, and, like, the people who don't work 8 to 5 every day, and this is, like, very much a side note. I used to work from 12 to 9 p.m. So 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. Or like 12:01 p.m. Let's call it that. Like, I remember friends being like, why do you work so late? Like, all the time, why do you work so late? And I'm like, and I would work every weekend. I worked every weekend that I had that job, except for like maybe two. And it was like, and like, it's because people in those places still need psychoeducational groups at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I think my last last group therapy session was 8:30 or 7:30 to 8:30 or something like that. Like 7:30 to 8:15, and then I had to write notes. So like, like it's not always like, oh, you just have regular times for your sessions, regular, like group therapy and assessments. It's like, no, you have weekend ones, you have, sometimes you have them during visiting hours. I don't know why that's a thing, but that was a thing. Sometimes like people need stuff to do on the weekends. It's not like people just stop their symptoms for the times that people aren't working. Like that, when people are symptomatic, they're symptomatic for a long time, like almost always, especially people with chronic illnesses, so it's like, oh, okay, well, okay, yeah, so that's fun. So yeah, there are people who are tirelessly there we go, working at any of these places because it's a 24-hour facility, like all the time. Like, there's no closing just because it's a holiday. Like, there's no closing because it's a weekend, One time I got Easter off. Someone else worked for me that day. I don't know. They were like, oh, it's holiday. People get to choose. They get to sign up. And I was like, okay. I mean, I usually work on Sundays, though. So, like, why change it now? Because holiday pay. So other people have the opportunity. Like, oh, okay. Okay. But yeah. There are problems with the system, but, like, also, there's rules and regulations because of past issues and probably people suing the hospitals or the state for their treatments. And like, I mean, some of them absolutely, hands down, needed to change. And then other things, it's just kind of like, meh, okay, well, yeah, that had to change kind of as a rule. And I've gone over, kind of the things that, used to go on and everything. It's also been so long that I'm like, yeah, things. Anyway, I hope that was helpful for you, and I will talk with you soon. All right, thanks. Bye.